Today, what we're going to do, since the World Cup is starting in just a couple days, is I want to kick it back to like 4 or 5 years ago, back when the tiers were kind of like the hot thing to do. And I want to just evaluate and talk about certain ad campaigns that I've seen around the World Cup. I've seen a ton. I think today we're going to rank about 48, 49, which is the number of teams in the World Cup as well. That was not on purpose. Um, and I'm going to turn this into an article later. So this is kind of like my first step to just record my thoughts, get them in writing. But I thought it would be fun to do this just like out in public with you all, so we could have some fun and you can tell me if you agree or you don't, or if you hate it or whatever. So let's do that. I'm going to do these. I'm going to do this at least a couple more times after the group stages, because I do think some of these campaigns might have evolutions that happen during the group stages and then during the knockout stages. So I'm going to do a couple updates to this. So if I don't like a campaign, it's subject to change. My opinion is, if I see them doing something better later, and if what are the other kind of like housekeeping or caveats I wanted to do. You see that there's a lot of tiers here. I don't know if you can really read them, so I'll go through them. Up top is like God level, a campaign that both like brings a new conversation that's new to what ads have been talking about around the World Cup, and is greatly crafted, and one that I think could become a tradition or a new format that endures beyond this World Cup. Beyond that, I would say that those are like God level campaigns. We'll see if there's any in here. Below that, in the A level, there's two ways to make the A level, and those are great campaigns, right? The one way is to take like an old insight or an old conversation that has maybe already been touched upon before by World Cup ads in the past. There's a lot of different kind of enduring formats, like the World Cup hype video, the skill shots video, things like that. So these might be ads that don't really bring anything new in terms of conversation, but have great craft, and it's executed in like a new way with a new twist. And then the other way you could make like an ad that is, in my opinion, great, and in the A tier, is maybe your craft is not that excellent. It's fine, it's competent, but you brought a new relevant insight or a new conversation into the mix. I personally have a heart for that, because I do think that there's a lot of kind of like needs and desires that fans try to satisfy when they're watching the World Cup, and a lot of things they're trying to get out of the tournament, but they're not ads, especially in the US, they don't really tend to talk to too many of that. They get pretty cliche pretty easily. So if you're bringing something new to the conversation, it doesn't have to be the best executed ad in the world. I still like that a lot. I think it's a great idea, if maybe not a great campaign. Below that is perfectly fine ads that get a B. Campaigns that add something maybe valuable and good to the conversation, or do something good, are memorable enough, but are maybe kind of mid, like nothing that you will remember after the World Cup is over. Below that, you get more into mediocre, could still be good range. C is not a bad place to be. But I see a lot of campaigns that fall into this for three different reasons. One is campaigns that are very ambitious, maybe had a good new idea, but couldn't quite land it. It's not that just the craft was okay. It actually, like, something about it was confusing or incomplete. Then there's campaigns that show a lot of soccer knowledge, do good fan service, maybe are in the know. Soccer fans would enjoy watching, but they're not really getting that much value out of it. Those tend to be more about the brand than about the fan. And then there's another kind of C-level campaign that I think is kind of unambitious and borderline cliche, but has something about it that's pretty clever. And so I think despite itself, these campaigns might work, and there's something fun to them. Then just an exempt tier. We'll get to that in a second, because I do have some conflicts of interest here. So there's a couple campaigns that I can't judge fairly, so I'm going to exempt them. And then there's ads or campaigns where the brands just kind of showed up, maybe threw on a soccer ball, did something the very basic, didn't put too much effort in, and they were just kind of like wallpaper. And at the below tier, there are campaigns that just misread the room entirely, maybe fell on their face, just kind of like produced a gaffe that maybe unbeknownst to them, soccer fans would really dislike or any other way. So you're gonna have to find out if there's any that were so bad that they missed the mark completely. All right, without further ado, let's get to it. I'm doing these just kind of in the order that I've become aware of the ads, in the order I've seen them. But first, I have to do a couple exemptions because there are campaigns that I personally worked on or was part of the team. So one of them is the Xfinity Imagine That, the Xfinity The Invite as part of like their Imagine That platform. Let me see if I can. It's a little confusing. Let me see if I can find where I actually have the tiers. Here we go. So I'm going to put that under exempt because I have a conflict of interest there. By the way, I will be pretty brutally honest about certain ads. So now you know which ones I was involved with myself if you want to get me back and in the comments trash them or whatever. The other one that I have a conflict of interest is anything done by Centenario Tequila, as we did do like an ad campaign that features Memo Ochoa. It's called Our Passion. It's part of a Todo o Nada campaign that they're launching. There's also a cool kind of like initiative where people are sending themselves singing to Memo Ochoa, the Cielito Lindo, which is a big kind of traditionally Mexican song, and they're going to do a remix of it. I was not centrally involved in that remix song, but I worked on the brand. I was there when they were talking about the song remix, so I'm going to exempt myself from rating that one as well. Also exempt, just because I couldn't. I feel like if I would have done this, I would have had to evaluate literally hundreds of spots. Is anything done by the teams themselves to promote themselves? Most notably this year, a lot of teams did kind of fun squad announcement videos where they announced who had made the team. I do want to say, though, even though I'm exempting myself from looking at them individually, which, by the way, France's was my favorite one, I do want to say that as far as God level or like new kind of formats that I think are going to be used a lot in the future and that brands can have a lot of fun with, these squad announcement videos is something new I've seen. I don't know if anybody did them in 2022. So I'm going to put this up. Even though I'm exempting it, I'm also putting it up in kind of the God level tier because I do think this is one very new cool format that has been introduced this year by the teams themselves. All right. Now, with that all said, now let's go into actually evaluating certain campaigns. And like I said, I put these in the order at which I kind of became aware of them. Moved some around because they're related to each other. But let me see how we're doing here. Excellent. So I'm going to see if I can get, there's 49, but I have to go run an errand in about half an hour. So let's see if I can get through them in half an hour. Some I'll explain more than others. All right, let's start with one. There's going to be a few Coca-Cola ones here, and I'm going to be fairly critical of them. But I kind of wanted to start with one that I thought was kind of clever, kind of cool. They basically put out a can or a limited edition number of cans that when you open them, it screens goal. And there's a sweepstakes where, if you get one of these cans that sings goal when you open them, you win like 5,000 reais. Saw a few videos of influencers trying to see if they got the can, opening a bunch of cans at once. I think, this isn't like super deep. I think it's pretty clever. I thought it was a lot of fun. It has just like a little something to do for fans. So looking at the tiers, and if I can find the... Oh my God, I have to get used to streaming a little bit more. Looking at the tiers, finding it here, I would put the Coca-Cola cans that sing goal in... I don't think it's like gonna be anything like super earth-breaking, but I'll say it like adds something of value to the experience. It's kind of fun, a little mid. But overall, on the upper echelon, or like on the better side of things. So now when you see me do some of these other Coca-Cola ads, you can't say that I was mean. By the way, I'm showing you just kind of screenshots of the stuff that I put on a Google slide because I don't want to get copyright. I want to respect the copyright, I guess. So you'll want to like look up these campaigns yourselves if you want to see them more deeply, or if you haven't heard about them. I'll try to put maybe links to them, or at least the best ones, in the comments for you, or in the description if YouTube lets me. But just so you know, we're just going by screenshots here. The other thing is, I'm focused more on campaigns that have run in the US, although I did kind of pick and choose certain ones from other countries that I thought were good or instructive. Mostly ones I thought were good. Whereas in the US, I've picked ones that I kind of think are not that great either, kind of trash. All right, let's go to the next one. What do we have? Okay, Pepsi Football Nation. This is kind of an anthemic type of ad. I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes long, where David Beckham founds the Pepsi Football Nation, and someone tells him, "Are you saying you're going to let the fans decide the rules?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's the whole point." And then it's just people reading off rules, kind of like this one, Rule 73, if you nutmeg somebody, they owe you a Pepsi. Then there's kind of ridiculous rules, like there will be a Vini train that drops you right into the stadium. And I couldn't keep track of all the rules. You also see Mohamed Salah in like Pepsi branded kind of like Pharaoh warrior outfit. This ad has a lot going on. It certainly has its fun moments. It shows that it's in the know. But I kind of think, it's just a lot of things thrown in there, a lot of cameos. That's going to be a theme, unfortunately, in a lot of ads in this World Cup. And then the whole thing about letting fans decide the rules, and having the rules, I think, are weird. Like the Vini train one, like they don't actually feel like rules that would come from fans. I think it would have been really cool if they crowdsourced some of these rules somehow, or turned it into a bigger activation. I didn't see anything about them doing that. So this ad campaign is a bit bloated. I like the ambition. I feel like they could have done really cool things with the whole letting fans come up with rules, like a constitution for Football Nation. But in the end, I think it was more ambitious than it was good or effective. And now I've made all these little icons, and I cannot remember for my life which apply to what, or they're so small I can't remember. Here we go. Here's David Beckham. So Pepsi Football Nation is a C because it was ambitious, but it couldn't land it. Next. Okay, Coca-Cola, the other soda maker, the world dominant soda maker. They have thrown the kitchen sink at this thing the way they have. You could say that they've done a lot of different campaigns. I mean, I just showed you one that they did in Brazil. This is more of like their global campaign. Has a lot of different spots with different names, but I think that all kind of falls under one kind of umbrella that I'm calling like Jump Anthem, because they took Van Halen's Jump and tried to make like a remixed anthem about it, and they released it through this like sizzle reel made in anime style animation with J Balvin, etc. But then they also had some other ads that they said were part of the same effort, of where like the theme is like emotions bubbling up, get it, because the soda bubbles up, and then people just going crazy about soccer. Honestly, I feel like they just kind of just poured a lot of money down the drain with a lot of these things. This feels kind of like Wallpaper. It doesn't really add much. I've seen a billion ads of fans getting really excited and into it, and then the anthem kind of, it's not that great. A lot of people have a love for Coca-Cola. I think that it's kind of slowly becoming a bit of an uncanny brand with like really good visual design, but it's not very good at telling stories that aren't super self-centered. I really, really didn't like any of this at all. I'm going to say that it just kind of showed up and added nothing. Sorry, Coca-Cola. Patron, La Otra Copa. This was one of many ads that involved, older players or ex-players doing trick shots and playing with the ball. In this case, you have Thierry Henry and Roberto Carlos. Part of the campaign, too, they have a fun little looking kind of special edition bottle. Um, so I'm personally a little sick of this format of like just the trick shots. I do have to say this one has a little bit of a charm in that um they're doing it at a party and they kind of do like knock things over, and it's you kind of just get the sense that they're like kind of drunk and goofing around. It's shot in like a kind of a lo-fi way. It's not too bad as far as like just the trick shot, kind of like playing soccer in unexpected places. Those kind of ads that started with the airport, Nike's The Airport in '98, which is like one of the greatest ads ever, and now everybody just tries to copy it every year. As far as that goes, it's not the worst I've seen. It's certainly not like an A level ad. But with the nice little bottle design, and I think it's sort of charming. I would give it either a C of being in the know but not that exciting, or adding something of value. I think it's just kind of cute but not that exciting. Next. Casamigos, rivals on the field, amigos at the bar. You're going to have to just see some of these spots. They have Michelle Hudson. Now I'm like forgetting her name. I think I just butchered that name. It's somebody else. And then they have Key from Key and Peele at a bar hanging out saying the World Cup is coming, and then just kind of throwing a lot of cliches, the vuvuzelas and the horns, people going crazy. Are you team Spice or team Classic or whatever? They just kind of like jammed themselves into the World Cup, but just are kind of playing with just like very surface level cliches. I don't like this campaign at all. Sorry. I think it's not like a big faux pas or anything, but I just think it's one of those things that you just kind of showed up and added nothing. It's gonna, I think, kind of just fade into the background. Next, Heineken fan volunteers. I really like this one. If they had probably executed it a little bit better in terms of the craft, like if the announcement video was a little bit better, this could have maybe been like God level, honestly, because I think this is let me explain the program. It's a program so that for people to be able to leave work to watch the World Cup, but so that they're not ditching work, they use what is called volunteer hours, which a lot of companies do give volunteer hours where they give you time off to go volunteer. And they link you up with an organization where you can go volunteer, and that organization just pledges that they're going to have the game on. So while you're volunteering, say working at the food pantry, you are also watching the game. So it plays on a fan desire that I talk about in my World Cup marketing course. By the way, I do have one. I'll link it in the comments. That I don't think brands had really spoken to that much in terms of the World Cup, which is like the desire for fans to make it feel like a vacation, and kind of that unspoken rule that like you're not going to really get that much work done. It speaks to that. I think other sport events advertising in the US had spoken to that before, like the NCAA tournament, for example, but I had never really seen it done well in the World Cup. And this is, not only does it speak to that, but I think it does it in a very clever way that actually also, like, in theory, kind of gives back. This could be a program that happens every World Cup and that you blow out. This could become a World Cup tradition. So I was tempted to put it in God tier because I liked it that much, but I think the execution, like, I wish the video was just a little bit more clever the way they executed it. They could maybe change my mind if, like, maybe they release content around it during the World Cup of people doing it that makes it feel a little bit more epic. But because it doesn't feel that epic, I'm going to put it in new, relevant insider conversation and just competent craft. But it still gets an A. Where is it? My God. I'm so bad. I should have... I really didn't realize how hard it would be to find these. Did I just not even have it? Ugh. Disaster. Okay. I don't know if the little icon made the thing the way I had prepped it. So and it's one of my favorite ones. What do I do? Nah, it's too late. I'm in the middle of the stream. All right. Just imagine a Heineken logo here. in new relevant insight combo and just competent craft, and I'll fix this up and add it later. Next, okay, Coors Light. Coors Light. That's what I'm calling it. Basically, it's an ad where Andres Cantor, who's a soccer announcer, very famous in the U.S. And he likes to, soccer announcers go goal, and they ask what beer do you want. He goes Coors because he sees them all lined up. This is very cliche. The thing is though, I do think it's kind of clever enough. Just the device is so simple that I think it could probably work and people will remember it. So I do think it's in the C range. It would have been, I would have put it in D because I hate just like, it's just such a cliche what they're going off of. But I think that it's just kind of clever enough that it might be remembered. So here we go. Andres Cantor, unambitious. I'll say about Coors Light is that I'm a little disappointed because they could have done that Heineken thing because they have a very strong brand that stands for helping people chill, helping people relax. And they've owned that really well. So I just tend to have, compared to other beer brands whose like brand is not nearly as sharply defined, I tend to just have higher expectations for Coors Light, honestly. Coors Light could have done the Heineken thing and probably maybe even executed it in a more creative way, but unfortunately they didn't. So they're there. But it's not that bad. It could have been worse. Okay, this one I was on the fence a lot about. This Bank of America, the campaign is called "What Would You Like the Power to Do?" And it's a series of ads that show kind of like different people from the soccer world who like have certain causes. So Diego Luna, he's like very into like advocating for mental health. Also, he didn't make the team this year, which kind of sucks for this campaign, but still. Then there's a guy who I forgot his name, but he's like working to put more kind of like infrastructure in parks so that little kids play soccer from earlier and develop the skills earlier. Michelle Akers, who was just like a pioneer for women's soccer. There's a coach and blind soccer player who kind of coaches other blind soccer players. It's all kind of, I guess, wrapped under the umbrella of helping kind of grow soccer in America. So they have kind of like this program for bring soccer at schools, but it's more like a toolkit and resources. Like, I guess you could apply to maybe get equipment to bring to schools, but really it's more of like, here's some helpful tips. And then there's tips for like how to budget for youth sports without breaking the bank, which, I mean, part of the problem in the US is that soccer is so expensive to play where in other countries is not. We've made it such a money grab in this country. So I think like, in a way, I like the ambition of what this could have been, but there was no really there beyond like the nice ads and the videos. There's no teeth to it. It's not that meaningful. So I'm going to say kind of like, thank you for the ambition, but it could have been better. You didn't quite land it. So here we go. Ambitious, but couldn't quite land it. We continue. Lego. Everybody wants a piece. I think this is maybe going to be the first controversial thing I say, because I've seen a lot of people who've just been like loving this initiative and this ad, and I just don't think it's that great. First of all, there's the ad, and people talk about like, the ad, you have like Messi and Vinicius and Mbappe and Ronaldo building this kind of cool, to be honest, like Lego version of the World Cup trophy. But then they're like trying to put themselves at the top, and then a little kid comes and does it. And I've seen on LinkedIn people being like, this is what real groundbreaking advertising's like. It's not about the players, it's about the children. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen a million ads that feature kids in the World Cup. Like, this isn't that great. What I was intrigued about though was like them putting out a line of kind of like Lego sets for the World Cup. So the trophy's really cool, but then the ones that are about each player, I asked Lego enthusiasts in my life who really care about this stuff way more than me, and they were like, they're not great. It's not gonna. It's kind of just like a cash grab, and aside from the trophy, they're not that cool. So I feel like the ambition here was cool. This could have been like a really cool merchandising like idea, the way that the Panini albums were when they first started, and now there's sticker albums for all the World Cups. This could have been something that they release a version of every World Cup. They could probably still do it. Maybe the next time will be better, but for now, it's just in the ambitious, but couldn't land it. Sorry, Lego. Verizon, the right call. This ad is very, very superficial. It's just somebody being like, "We're paying so much for our phone," and then a referee being like, "Hey, let me do a VAR check, a VAR. Yes, you are. It's time to switch to Verizon." The only thing I kind of like about it, I want to give him credit for, is that they use Pierluigi Collina, who's like an old referee that is like pretty recognizable and kind of a celebrity in his own right. It shows a little bit of like in the know knowledge. So I want to give them like a little bit of that, but it's really like not that exciting otherwise. But it could have been worse. So here you go. In the know, but not that exciting. So far a lot of mid things. Although to be fair, there is an A campaign. I just like forgot to put the icon in my tier thing. So just gonna have to imagine the Heineken ad there. Fox Sports. Everything can happen, man. I at first wanted to hate this ad and give it an F. And not only because I'm not like a US fan and I don't like imagining the US winning, but also because it felt there's like something weird about it. But then rewatching it, honestly, it's very well done. It has some like nice in the know nuggets. I think it's pretty well crafted. So I can't with a good mind like trash it too much. Um the thing that's a little bit weird about it, and just like a theme I've seen, is that it does kind of represent. I don't. It feels like it doesn't really speak to soccer fans in the U.S. as much as it's just like desperately trying to sell the U.S. and soccer to people in the rest of the country who like don't like it that much, right? It still kind of uses the same script from like 30, 20 years ago, whereas it's like soccer is this plucky sport, and maybe now everybody will like it. And I just feel like soccer is past that in this country. It's like pretty well established. It has as many fans as NCAA basketball. So you don't need to have like this weird wet dream of like a rancher in Texas taking the John Elway bobblehead off and then putting a Weston McKinney one. So I felt in that way. I just felt like it was not even really selling the sport for what was appealing about it, but just being like, I don't know, the US might win. So now that I talk about it, I'm kind of back to not liking it that much. But it was well made. So what do I do with you? I think it's probably like a B. It does add value. It's like a well made ad, kind of enjoyable, some in the know, and good craft. But I don't know. It's not A level for me for reasons that I just said. Let's keep going. Lays the bandwagon. Okay, so here's one that's like I had not really seen brands talk about the bandwagon aspect of the World Cup and the fact that is just like a tournament that a lot of casuals come in and like fans like that. They like kind of like the renewed energy, I guess company and the energy. But and people watching along with them. But also just the fact that like there's like a part where, their favorite team, the team that they were rooting for loses and they're like, oh, and Will Ferrell's like, what? Just pick another team. And I think it's insightful just with the execution not really being anything like too out of this world. So I guess it's speaking to something new. So if I should stick to my guns and give it like a relevant insight combo and just the craft being competent, I kind of want to put it in the B because I don't think I didn't enjoy it that much, but I should be consistent, I guess. So let's put it in the in that. Let's put it closer to that higher tiers, like a new insight, a new convo. I like that. The craft was kind of competent enough. So A, there you go. The second A. Okay, Adidas Backyard Legends. People have been gushing over this ad, and I think rightfully so. I don't think it gets to the point of being groundbreaking because it is kind of like trying to be just another chapter in a long tradition of like kind of like anthemic, zizzle reel, get everybody hyped up spots with like cool moves. But they do approach it in a way that is a little different with Timothée Chalamet like being kind of the main storyteller, and then there's like a backstory with some fictional characters behind it. It's engaging, and then yeah, they throw all the celebrity cameos and all that stuff that everybody else does. But it does tell kind of a cool story. It feels epic, and the story was they established enough of a universe around it that they were able to spin off a game, a TDS game of it. I guess the game kind of sucks. Probably was thrown together like hastily, but still, like it lent itself to a game, and I think that kind of shows that they did do some world building, some good storytelling around it. I think this is one of the better ads and campaigns so far from the World Cup. We're going to put it in an old conversation, old insight, but with like a very cool, excellent new twist. Brahma Brazil is in that same style as well. This is a Brazilian beer, and so this ad was for Brazil specifically. It's kind of like a cross between cool moves, playing soccer in like weird spaces, and also the ad that is tend to kind of like get people hyped up to root for their national team. Um, Again, it's kind of a tried and true format, nothing new, but I like the way they treated it. Number one, people think Brazil kind of sucks this year, so they started from the point of view of like nobody believes, and there's this newspaper article. They crush the newspaper into a ball, and then they play the ball that they play with is the newspaper, and then as they're going around the city doing kind of fun trick shots and kind of the old kind of like trope of playing soccer in random spaces, they recreate moments from like Brazilian history in the World Cup, including Roberto Baggio, the Italian, just kind of absolutely shanking that penalty kick for them to win 94. I thought that was clever. And aside from like the little cameos and the celebrity stuff, that's a little bit cliche, but I like the way they treated it. And I thought it was really clever, and it was a really cool ad to watch, and the craft was really high. I'm going to put it alongside the Adidas in old conversation, kind of doing the old thing, but doing it with an excellent new twist. Great ad. I cherry picked Cerveza Aguila from Colombia here because it's the same type of ad, and because I'm a Colombia fan, I feel that I'm not too mean in showing you this as an example of kind of like how not to do it, or a way to do it without it being like that great. So it's the same sentiment, as like the Brahma spot of like, let's get everybody rooting for the team. And then in this case, they had like the narrative vehicle was people would they would open up their beer and there'd be a number there and they'd be like 93, the minute 93. That's when El Pibe Valderrama, passed it to Rincon to like tie the game against Germany in 1990. Ooh, the minute 28, that's when James did the sick goal of the tournament in 2014 against Uruguay. But then it kind of stopped there, and then they just kind of jammed like recognizable Colombian celebrities and icons in there. Nostalgia, but just kind of jammed it. And then they had the players to give some lines and like, you know, I like ads that make the players act and do goofy things, but here they were just giving a speech and it was kind of wooden. Players, you can't really ask them to act very well, deliver their lines that well. So I am picking on this just because I thought it'd be instructive to have an example of like an ad whose goal is to get everybody pumped to support their team. And as a Colombian fan, I enjoyed watching this and it did get me pumped. But that is just kind of just cliche and really adds nothing new. So it's in the know. Maybe I'll give it a B because maybe it does add something of value for me as a Colombian fan or people who are Colombian fans, but it's mid, very mid. Now this is one that it came out of Scotland. I had never heard of this brand, but they kind of put a different twist on it. They're not really expecting to do that well, so they're just kind of like being self-deprecated in this ad, and then by the way, just kind of making fun of all the like troubles that they might encounter when traveling and watching the World Cup in the US, like ordering a small and getting like a 90-foot long hot dog, and also poking fun at the fact that like the US is not very hospitable to immigration. So it's kind of like a get pumped to to support your team ad, but it's like flips it on its head and also talks about very topical things of the moment. I think it's a really good. Honestly, I thought that was a really good ad. Um, I'm not gonna call it groundbreaking, but I'm going to say old insight, excellent new twist. We continue. Budweiser just blowing up a bunch of like inflatable bottles and turning a soccer stadium into a beer bucket. I think this is cute, clever. Um, they were talking about it though, like as if it was like the boldest thing ever. I do not think it's the boldest thing ever. I think this is a classic thing where it's like it's just more to service the brand. It's not really doing much for the fans, but it is kind of cool. Not that exciting, but kind of cute. So I'd put it a C. There's no shame in being in the C category, but that's just how I feel about this one. Another one from Budweiser. All of this, I think, is part of like an effort for them to celebrate their 40 years of being World Cup sponsors, which is cool. And I think these out of homes, or I think the years are out of homes, or these are tasteful, right? Like they're showing little moments from different World Cups, and the photography's cropped well. It's cool. It's good craft, but it's just kind of just about the brand. It doesn't really do much for the fans, so I got to put that in that C tier because of that as well. Michelob Ultra, the superior match. Messi sees some players from the U.S. team and also Memo Ochoa, and they're like, we'll play you for some Michelob, and then they play in a hotel, and people are cheering, and there's little Easter eggs and this and that. It's the cool moves in an unconventional space ad, but without really any new treatment whatsoever. It was incredibly cliche. This might be harsh, but this is kind of wallpaper. I'm sorry. You just kind of showed up. You added nothing. Like as if every other brand wasn't going to do the tried and true skills thing. You had to bring something new to the table. You didn't. Axe. Oh, man. I forgot about this one. This is a series of ads where it's like men doing kind of ridiculous things, dressing up in ridiculous ways to support their team, and looking basically just like killing their sex appeal in the process. But the joke is that because they put on Axe Effect, they still smelled their best when they looked their worst and still got some girl to fall in love with them. So, I mean, Axe is not everybody's cup of tea. But I thought, yeah, like this one, for example, is La Mano de Dios. Like it's an allusion to Maradona. I thought these were filmed really well, and they were like done in ways that really like there was a whole series, even more than these three, and each one was like very specific to a country, and like they were really like good with the details of highlighting the culture and the soccer culture of each country. So I thought this was kind of an excellent campaign. I'm going to, I don't think it's groundbreaking, but I'm going to give it like, I think it's not necessarily a new combo because, you know, we've talked about, there's been a lot of ads about fans doing crazy stuff, but it's like, it does take that old kind of trope, but does it well in a new way, a new twist. So I'm going to put it up here in DA, one of the better ones. Miller Lite, MVP match ball. I was kind of like, didn't want to love this one as much. But honestly, from the point of view of like fans, for fans, the World Cup is like a big social event. This is like a gimmicky little way to carry your beer. It's kind of fun. Like not everything has to be that deep. So I was going to give it wallpaper, but no. I was going to make it unambitious and cliche, but maybe clever enough that it might work. But no, I think it does bring like it gives like a nice little party centerpiece. I think it adds something of value. I'm going to give it a B. Ooh, Air Transat. This one hijacked the conversation which is the incredibly high ticket prices that FIFA's just like scalping people, right? And saying, you know, they took that as a starting point, then used a really cool visual joke of the line on the field with the line that planes leave behind, and we're like, you could watch Mexico for $3,000 or you could see Mexico for 400. You could watch Portugal for 4,000 bucks almost. See Portugal. I thought this was simple, but just a really cool visual joke. I thought it hijacks like a very like topical conversation that's new and probably hopefully just specific to this World Cup. I really like this one. Please tell me that I grabbed. Oh my god, did I not? Oh, I'm gonna have to along with like the Heineken one, I think I forgot to capture it. God damn it. But okay, that's fine. It would have been in the new relevant insight combo with competent craft. You could even say it's like really good craft actually. The only reason I don't put it in God level is because it's not something that like hopefully you can reproduce for the rest. So this is an A ad. Just again, along with the Heineken one, pretend it's here. Maybe I'll superimpose it later. Everything is a tap in with Visa. This is just like a very simple ad, or I guess the premise is simple. Visa's trying to showcase like their I guess like feature where they can like you can pay with a tap. And so I'm blanking on his name. You know, the dude from the show. He's trying to get back to the US to watch the game, and people keep telling him, no, this can't be done, that can't be done. And then he taps in and magical things happen, like his driver who won't take him across the pond turns into Holland who does, and it's fine. It's kind of cute. Let me see. I would say it doesn't really add that much value to the fan, but it's in the know and it's kind of cute. So let's put it here in the C. In the C. Orange France. This is one of those get pumped for the World Cup, like to support your team. But it does again something really cool and new with it, which is instead of being like rah rah rah, it shows its players recreating like tropes of American movies, acting badly but goofily, and then it ends with a nice punchline of like, if the Blues are going to America, it's not to put on an act or to make a comedy, it's to win the whole thing. Really clever, really fun ad to watch. This is definitely taking an old format with an excellent new twist, an A type of a campaign. Good. Orange has one of the greatest World Cup ads of all time. If you can see, I have a video with the other Felipe where we discussed the best ads of all time, and that's one of them. All right, BuzzBalls. They just slapped some flags on their packaging, and then had a guy who used to show his balls because he was a streaker complain about it. It's kind of fun, but I think it's just kind of like wallpaper, honestly. I'm gonna start moving a little quicker because we're running out of time here. Marriott, I believe that we will win. It's people chanting, I believe that we will win, in the Marriott Hotel with a lot of not very subtle branding in the back, eating continental breakfast. It's basically a brand saying, ooh, we know what you guys like to chant, and then just kind of jamming it in a place where it would never happen, their hotel. This ad is trash. I'm sorry. It's wallpaper. I'm not saying it's going to misread the room. Nothing wrong, nothing like offensive about it, but it's just not that great. TopoChico Hard, the football feet check. This started from the insight that the World Cup is really expensive this year, which it's kind of sad that that's such a prevalent insight now. And they made a line of soccer gear that I think looks pretty good, and combined it with a sweepstakes where you could get $1,000 to like whatever, go to a game or have a badass party. I like the thought in this. I liked kind of like the thought of funding your fandom, but I think it could have gone a lot further. I don't think they pushed it enough. So I would say it's C in the sense that it's ambitious, and I liked the ambition, but it didn't quite land it. Maybe another time. Stella work from bar, where they are basically trying to incentivize people to work from the bar while they watch the game, and then whatever beers you buy or whatever, you can put a quote unquote expense report. This again speaks to that insight that I hadn't seen spoken to that much before, of like that like fans kind of treat this tournament as like a vacation, and kind of like do whatever they can to like make it feel like a vacation while still maybe having to work. I like this twist on it. It's simpler than the Heineken one. I think it has less legs than the Heineken one. If the Heineken one was executed really well, but I still think it's a new twist, or it's like it tries to talk to something new about the experience. I'll give it an A. It's one of the better efforts I've seen, better ideas. Again, here picture the Heineken one and the air trans or the airplane one there. I'll add them. So there's actually 4 over here. So if you look at it now, there's actually a decent amount of like A-level campaigns and ideas. All right. Lightning round. Domino's red card pizza. So whenever the US gets a red card, like you can get a free pizza that helps soften the blow. I think that's kind of fun. Adds value for sure. Not creatively that great. I'll give it like a B though, because it does add real value. And I know that if I'm watching the US play and they get a red card, I'll get one of these pizzas to celebrate. McDonald's World Cup meal. The person who did, or the person who led this campaign was writing on LinkedIn that, you know, they started with an insight of like, you know, you could have like McDonald's go to the World Cup, but McDonald's is such an iconic like American brand that like in a World Cup that America's hosting, there's something about like the World Cup players coming to McDonald's. I thought that was a cool thought. I don't think this execution quite gets to it. At the end of the day, it's just collectible cups that you get with a Big Mac. The cups are cool. I think people will probably go for them, especially the super fans. Nothing wrong with it. But I don't think it's really much to write home about either. So did I not? Some of these made it and some of them didn't. Man, I did some things wrong here. All right, imagining it being an ambitious but couldn't land it. I think the ambition was greater than the execution. I think this is kind of a forgettable campaign. Although I think people will get a kick out of the cups. Burger King, love or Whopper? So this one was how players like to do the heart thing when they score a goal, and then they're trying to kind of hijack themselves onto it and be like, are they saying Whopper or are they saying love? Really dumb in a good way, like dumb, fun, camp, like little ad. I wanted to like say it's cliche and like kind of lazy and unambitious, but again, like the Coors Light one, it's clever enough that it might work, and that now whenever I see people do that, or players do that, I'm gonna think of the Whopper. So I think it's still gonna work for them. Rip the script. Okay, this is the one that people are casting as like the up against the Adidas one, and I've seen this ad get a lot of this Nike ad get a lot of hate. People being like, it's just cameos, it's just the same old. There's no story. I did think there is a story. I really did. You know, they're trying to film a commercial and the director is going nuts because people keep improvising and he's all mad, and then they just kind of like whatever rebel and then go to all these other movie sets and play soccer there, and then you have kind of like, you know, the play on Hollywood, which is funny to see how a World Cup in America, that's where like brands are going to, like when we're talking about American culture, we're talking about either just rural Texas people we wish like soccer, or like Hollywood and like playing with Hollywood tropes. But it has like fun Easter eggs. I think like fans really enjoyed it. I thought the craft was still excellent. I don't think it's as good as the Adidas one, but I still think it's one of the better spots. I think I think it does, and the use of like security footage and like marrying like the scenes to like the types of content and that they're parodying. I thought it was clever. I think it's one of the better ones. I don't know. People are hating on it, but I kind of like it. It's like the opposite to Lego. People are loving it, and I didn't really like it. Uber Eats, who could cook at a time like this? Gordon Ramsay, who's like all about cooking, goes to people's houses to yell at them for cooking too close to the World Cup because they're going to miss the games, and telling them to get Uber Eats. It's nothing creatively like that great, but I think it's clever. I think it's fun. Um, you know, is it adding value for fans? Probably not. So it's maybe something more in the know. It was a fun little insight, so I'll give it like a C. I liked it. It wasn't bad. AB-Inbev, cheers to bars. This was just like a tedious manifesto about bars are where people gather and to watch soccer. So cheers to bars. Technically, I guess this encompasses the Stella work from home thing. It's part of the same campaign, but as a standalone ad, this is just wallpaper. Sorry. Indeed. It's hard to get a job out there. As a gimmick, they made a chief World Cup watcher where they hire somebody to just watch every World Cup match and get paid and pay $50,000, and you have to like make your Indeed profile to go get it. This is kind of fun. I think it adds something valuable in that like somebody is gonna have like a great summer getting paid to do that. Nothing special, but I like it. Fun little stunt. DoorDash, deliver us to football. No stunts here that I know of. Nothing beyond like the spot itself. But it's hard to describe, but it's just a very well filmed spot. A lot of like little Easter eggs in there. And it kind of shows, I don't know, I like how it gives you a sense of like what it's like to be a delivery person in the middle of the World Cup when nobody's really out on the street or they're at watch parties, and then you're kind of it's an interesting lens. I thought it was kind of cool. I would give this, it's not necessarily an A. It's not as epic as the other ones, but it's really well made. I'm gonna put it here in B, solid B. IKEA, the best seat of the game is just throw a soccer ball on there and tell Hispanics that this, your house can kind of be like the stadium. This is the best way to watch the game. I think it's just a little lazy, kind of mid. Did I have the icon on here? I thought I did. Okay. Well, imagine it in the D part. Not that great. Blah. Quaker, feed your kids whole body nutrition and then they'll be good at soccer. And that's about the extent of the connection. Blah. D. Wallpaper. Sorry. Nescafe, third half. This had an interesting thought of like the inside of like that after the game is over, people are still complaining about it and maybe over coffee, or I'm sorry, they're arguing about the game over coffee. It was an interesting insight. They could have done a lot more with it. The execution itself was just slapped it Lennon Donovan on there, and like the filming is not like, it doesn't look that great. So I think it's ambitious but could have landed, but there was like an interesting initial thinking there. I got to give it to them. I just wish it would have been a better ad. Powerade, Power Your Legacy is just people training to be good at soccer and drinking Powerade. They have Yamin in there. Did I I'm like butchering his name. Whatever, you know who I'm talking about. But other than that, I mean, nothing new under the sun here. Pretty unremarkable. Dove Men plus Care. They're showing people like going crazy at the stadium at the game, and then they're like, care for your skin like you care for the game. Nothing. Just does nothing for me. D. Duracell, Messi reboot. Messi runs out of battery. A guy comes in, sees that he had normal batteries, puts Duracell in there, and then he goes back to storing goals. It did make me kind of chuckle. Like, it's not a terrible ad, but I don't know. You could do so much better. D. Wallpaper. Truly, U.S. soccer anthem. They tried to like make this anthem that people will sing at the bars, kind of tongue-in-cheek. Other than that, nothing here. Kind of blah. And then Valvoline. This was about celebrating people taking long road trips to celebrate the World Cup or to go to World Cup games, but they ended up not really making the spot about that. They made it more about themselves. So there was like a fun little ambition there, but they just definitely didn't land it. C. Hyundai, the greatest cheer drawing contest. I guess they're going to have a contest where little kids submit drawings of their teams, and then there's one winner per country, and they put that on the bus, which I guess the buses are Hyundai on the team bus. I got to see like how they actually execute and whether they do it. But I like this idea. It's like a cool contest. I think this is like add something valuable. I'm going to give it a B for now, but it could be an A where it's like a new kind of angle into things. Maybe a new tradition, could even be God level. It just, right now, I don't know. This is all I've seen about it, the announcement. I don't know how they're executing it. And then Huggies do it for the team. This gets points for foresight. This came out last fall. And it was basically, again, speaking to the inside of people trying to treat the World Cup like a vacation, so saying, why don't you make a baby now in the fall and it will be born just in time for you to get parental leave during the World Cup? And then they did fun things like having 90 minutes of just like sexy music and like strawberries with chocolate, whatever, sexy imagery. So you could like bone and then try to make a baby and time it to have it during the World Cup. This could have been God level. The problem is like, I hadn't even really heard of it until now. I just saw this, that they had done it in the fall. So clearly it didn't build it out. They could have executed it better, but this could be like, if they do it well, this could be a program that they do every World Cup for every tournament and like add new different things to it. There's a lot of potential. So I'm gonna put it here in the new relevant insight combo, competent craft. I wish they'd have blown it out more because clearly they didn't. And all right, that is the end. I'm late to go pick up my kid. Hope you enjoyed this. Wow, we were here for almost an hour. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'm gonna turn it into an article. If you have any campaigns that I missed that you want me to cover, leave them in the comments, and then follow, subscribe to catch the next version of this. I'll maybe look at some new ones in the next one, and then let you know if any of these have changed. Maybe we'll change the rankings if some of these campaigns have had added new wrinkles as the tournament goes on.